All right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. I'm extremely honored, humbled, and grateful that we are here with both Brandon and Lewis. This was an initiative that was brought up, I believe, by Lewis, and I want to thank him very much because his writing is already very, very phenomenal. And to see the writing now be brought into a presentation type form, I think is outstanding. And I just want to let everybody know that this is his first time, I believe, presenting, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he's going to do a phenomenal job. So with that said, the floor is yours, brother. And what are we looking at today?
So today, guys, we'll be discussing one of the most well-known films. Obviously, can you see the screen, by the way?
We have not yet, huh? You're welcome to share.
No.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Uh-huh. Minimize video. My bad, guys. I thought I had it up.
No problem.
Yeah, it's all good.
How about now?
Perfect.
Is it better?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And can you see the notes?
No.
Nope. Awesome. Right. So today, guys, we're discussing The Wizard of Oz. And its deep, esoteric, occult, and allegorical meanings that accompany it. The Wizard of Oz, like many things, all contain deep symbology that we inner and understand. Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Harry Potter, The Wizard of Oz. All of these stories are stories that include the spiritual ascension of one or more of the main characters. The story of an ignorant character who embarks on a journey to defeat an evil character is always one that does well. This is because they are allegorical stories of ascension. These are not always meant to be taken at face value. We understand the symbology and the archetypal motifs that these stories tell, and we always come back to these stories over and over because they speak to old parts of us that we've lost, parts of us that yearns for a mission, that yearns for purpose. I just want to shout out another great presentation on The Wizard of Oz that I recently saw, and this was one by Mark Passio. Everything I needed to know in life, I learned by watching The Wizard of Oz. I wholly agree with Mark's concepts that he's laid out. However, I just didn't want to take his work and steal it, as he's covered so much and such a broad amount of deep knowledge. I wanted to lay out some new, fresh, and hopefully gives you a different perspective on the film. This is a story that is multifaceted, and multiple understandings of one event/character can be garnered. There are no right or wrong views here, only perspectives. Although certain characters and events have multiple meanings, I will, for the viewer's sake, only discuss one central theme, even though I realize that there are many. And that is how The Wizard of Oz is the story of how to attain spiritual enlightenment. And I just want to say, guys, at any point, if you want to interrupt me, if you want to add something, feel free. All right. So as we go through, we'll realize that Dorothy is representative of the soul, and Toto the dog is representative of the spirit/the intuition. Let's begin. So in the first few minutes, we see the dismissal of Dorothy's problems. The problem being with the destruction of the spirit and the intuition represented by the dog named Toto. This provides us with a glimpse inside the eyes of society and how they see and prioritize certain problems over others. They are stuck within the physical world, worrying only about the immediate physical problems that lay before them. They aren't bothered with the issues of the mind, of expansion, of consciousness. All they are worried about is meeting the demands that the physical world presents them with. The world they live in, just like Dorothy's experience in Oz, seems so real, and the consequences appear to be so dire. Dorothy is then given advice from the farmhands, different ways at the attempted destruction of the soul of the dog Toto again. One of the advice is from the right-hand side character, who represents the scarecrow, as we will see later. And he gives the advice to use their mind to think the way to tackle the issue. And the other recommends using courage and facing it head on. This is later the lion character. Now notice both of these elements are actually missing in Dorothy. Since she didn't do those things, she obviously lacks courage and the proper use of her mind to halt the annihilation of her dog Toto. The farmhands still represent society, however modern society, due to their obvious youthful nature, and also how they aren't bothered by Dorothy's moaning and the destruction of Toto, but they're still stopped to give advice, as opposed to Auntie M, who is just agitated by Dorothy. Notice how the only person that we don't actually hear from is the character that plays the Tin Man, is the man on the far left. Why? Because he has no heart. She then told to stop imagining things by Auntie M, meaning that the aunt can't see beyond the physical world and its problems. She isn't in tune with the intuitive aspects of consciousness, and even goes as far as to ignore it. We can see this through her lack of association with the dog Toto. Auntie M then proceeds to tell Dorothy to do something where she isn't any trouble. Auntie M represents society, their perspective on life. Follow everyone else, don't stand out, go along the simple, easy, known route, as to not travel along the unknown, dangerous path, that being the path of expanding your own consciousness. She's telling her to live a normal life and stay away from the paths of enlightenment, ascension, and growth, which all have bent paths, for no amount of growth comes from a path that is straight and narrow, where you can clearly see all the obstacles. Dorothy then begins to think about a place where she won't get into any trouble. It's not somewhere you can get to by boat or train, she says. I mean, it isn't somewhere you can get to in the physical world. It is within the mind. She also alludes to the fact that consciousness is non-local, far, far away, beyond the moon, she says, behind the moon. Perhaps speaking to peace, unity, and Christ consciousness being beyond the moon matrix that we may live in, or simply it's just non-local, beyond the moon and beyond the planets. The rainbow bridge, as we can see, that she speaks about somewhere over the rainbow, also speaks to psychedelic states where we see vortexes, fractals, and spirals on the bottom left. We also have the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, the gold being the alchemical gold of knowledge and spiritual enlightenment. This is why you start at base consciousness, the red lower chakra, the root chakra, as you can see on the bottom right side of the screen, and ascend up the ladder. Notice the DNA appears to look like a step ladder towards the end, the purple chakra, where you reach enlightenment. To quickly re-emphasize my point about the aunt and uncle being deeply entrenched within the physical and societal world, when threatened by Miss Gulch with a lawsuit, Miss Gulch is a character on the right who later becomes the Wicked Witch of the West. Auntie M immediately bows and allows the destruction of the spirit, Toto, and for the dog to be taken away. This is truly indicative of people's lack of willingness to use all the most powerful elements at our disposal: mind, body, and soul, or in other words, thought, the scarecrow, courage, the lion, and care, the tin man. She isn't lacking in all three, as we clearly see her owning the three farmhands who later become the scarecrow, the tin man, and the lion. She has them, but what she uses them for is all geared towards the physical world. She attempts to use courage, but is thwarted, blaming her Christian nature on why she can't stand up to Mrs. Gulch. This shows the narrow box that religious institutions put you in pertaining to what you are permitted to do. She didn't even feel after 23 years of abuse that she could tell her truth, however harsh, due to her Christian nature. This shows how the boundaries of religious ideologies work, at least at a personal level, if not a societal one. Auntie M fails to deal with her witch, as she hasn't used any of the three aforementioned traits. As Miss Gulch takes the dog, and we see her riding with the dog Toto. Toto jumps out the back and escapes, showing that the spirit will always find a way and will never stop in its pursuit and its exploration to be with its soul. When Dorothy is reunited with Toto, she is elated and realizes that the establishment will soon be back to attempt to take the dog away from her. Knowing the power and the connection between them, she is immediately willing to go everything for that bond, even if it means she suffers within the physical world. She would rather run away from the comfort of home and follow the known straight path and have to lose her spirit than have to lose her spirit. The bond between the soul and the spirit isn't a tame one, as we can see. It is something to be taken care of, to be nurtured, and is something to be held in the highest regard, even above the physical demands, the demands of the physical world. As she leaves home along a walk, Toto, the intuition, barks at a parked vehicle of a con man named Professor Marvel. The intuition knows that there is something that we can't logically explain. It is a feeling, and Toto only barks when there is a danger or there is something to pay attention to. In our lives, we get a form of barking. We get a funny feeling, feeling in the pit of our stomach sometimes, which can come on in an instant. On the sign, you notice on the left-hand side, it says, acclaimed by the crown heads of Europe, juggling and sleight of hand. The reference to the crown heads of Europe may appear to be a reference to royalty in the physical form, but what it was actually representative of is the royalty of the mind. The mind, the crown jewels placed at the top of the head of royalty. This is related to the level of the chakra system, commonly known as the crown chakra, as we can see on the bottom right. The crown is the highest level of consciousness, being that of divinity, oneness, illumination, and a deep spiritual connection with the universe. So it professes both in this world and later as the wizard, as we shall see, to be acclaimed by the enlightened ones. It then takes a few random general guesses at what Dorothy may be doing alone on a path walking with her basket and the dog. And then we clearly see his vague knowledge of history. And then this shows immediately how she doesn't have a mind and she isn't using it, as anyone can see that he's clearly a fraud. So as she is told of fortune, see Dave smiling in the bottom right. As she's told her fortune by Professor Marvel, who stole the photograph from her basket to make believe he had the power of foresight. She believes that Auntie M may be in trouble. Auntie M and the uncle both are representative of home. Now, what is home? Home is where we are comfortable, where everything is known. It is the known world, the habits, the comforts of life. A tornado appears, which represents many things simultaneously. The toroidal field, the vortex, negatron wave collapse, pine cones kissing, the Holy Grail, the bridge between worlds. That is why it reaches the land and the sky, heaven and hell, lower consciousness and higher consciousness. The tornado is also what she travels through to transcend to the level of us, the land of us, transporting her to the other world. This is why she also sings a song, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, referring to the idea of the Rainbow Bridge. Now, the Rainbow Bridge is a beam of light, if you look on the right-hand side, that travels along the chakra points, which in turn allows you to ascend to a higher level of consciousness. It's something that sets up and steps up like a divine ladder or bridge, whose journey towards enlightenment. The reason the Rainbow Bridge appears after the storm is due to a raising of vibration, ascending beyond the physical necessities of the root chakra when she abandons home without fear of what might happen to her in the physical world. She desires more than the straight normal path that Auntie M wanted for her, and wants to ascend to a higher level of consciousness. This is why she creates the rainbow, the tornado. She uses her intuition and travels with it, and in turn creates a rainbow bridge, which is the paradigm world or dimension which allows her to travel to the Emerald City. Now, the Emerald City being that of spiritual illumination, heart balance and coherence. This story can also be seen as a psychedelic trip, since we have the munchkins on this too. I'm just going to take a drink. Did you two want to jump in for a second?
Only to tell you how amazing and mind-blowing this is, dude. Holy shit. Damn.
I have nothing to add really, because the fact that I have a lacking of what to add is a compliment to Lewis. So yeah.
Well, I appreciate that.
Outstanding, because this is marrying all the stuff we've been talking about, but it's put in and it's throwing back now Wizard of Oz. It's brilliant, and then I'm tying this, of course, over to Pink Floyd and how that's so deep and awesome, and then now you're thinking about Dark Side of the Moon, and then now I'm thinking about the moon, and this is awesome, dude. I love this, Lewis. You're crushing, man. Absolutely crushing.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Right. So notice where Dorothy holds Toto, directly by her heart. She is actually, as Dan Winter states, creating implosion due to her hugging Toto inwards and keeping him by the heart. We also have Dorothy holding the basket along the whole journey, which could speak to the relationship between the soul and its ability and or connection with the well-known Sumerian handbag seen as above.
Holy crap, I never thought of that. That's
no shit. Yes, wow. I was like, what?
So the Sumerian handbags are actually, they're known as Me, M-E. Now, the Sumerian concept of me refers to divine powers or attributes that were believed to be channeled through specific pathways in the body. The idea of channels or pathways through which divine energy flows is a reoccurring theme in many ancient cultural cultures, and remains a significant concept in spiritual practices today. As we can see, obviously, top right and the bottom right both appear to be the crown chakra. So as the rainbow bridge is appearing, this is for you personally. You'll be presented with your trauma, and this is something you must overcome if you desire to ascend. This is why the only tangible thing that we can see within the tornado is Dorothy's view of Mrs. Gulch, who then transforms into a seemingly evil witch, who we will find out to be the Wicked Witch of the West. Dorothy is then aware of the darkness that haunts her. She can then use that knowledge later as the obstacle that is holding her back. So as she finds herself in the land of Oz, a yellow orb then appears, which morphs into green and then pink, resulting in the appearance of Glinda, the Witch of the North, the character at the top right. She is a North because the North is the balance of the two brain hemispheres and the dualistic nature that we can tap into. It is the center. Now, this was a long shot, so bear with me here. Glinda, so if you imagine, so G equals 6, so the letter, A equals 1, D equals 4. Do you understand? Yeah, so the letters of the number, yeah? So the first 3 letters, the first half, because it's 6, so the first half of our name is 6, 12, and 9. Now, what are all these? These are all multiples of 3. Now, this is possibly connected to, obviously, Tesla's 369 experiment, not experiment, theory about the universe. And then the second half is 14, which represents, again, balance and harmony. D is 4, which represents support and stability, which she gives to Dorothy. And A equals 1, which is unity. She is the divine feminine, which is care and love. Glinda then tells Dorothy, Glinda asks Dorothy if she is a witch. She says only bad witches are ugly, meaning 2 things. A good person doesn't have an ugly heart. They are a good person, and this is represented in the physical appearance. Caring people are not ugly people. This is why in all films, witches are ugly and attempt to become beautiful. Their ugliness is a representation of their soul. This is why Glinda has jewels on the pineal gland and is objectively beautiful. She glows and has seemingly little physical impurities. She doesn't have a big nose, long nails, massive chin, whatever. A witch is someone who uses magic to create and change reality. Dorothy is also a witch, but she doesn't yet realize it. Glinda was also talking about how with brain balance and harmony, not being overly left or overly right-brained, the physical brain doesn't actually decay, as we can see in the picture below, which is from Mark Passio's work. The brain isn't damaged and therefore is a picture of health, or rather a picture of beauty, represented by Glinda not being ugly. This is why in our current situation, I don't believe that we can be overly loving and overly love and light. We can't be overly right-brained. Even Glinda and the Munchkins realize that the death, physical, metaphorical, of evil is sometimes a positive thing. The absolute annihilation of evil, as the Munchkins say, morally, ethically, spiritually, physically, positively, absolutely, undeniably, and reliably dead in the song. Meaning the death of evil is something to be celebrated, as enslavement is now at the end and freedom can reign.
It's like having a house with no ceiling, for example. Without the ceiling, you don't know where the sort of limit would be with respects to your current, you could say, scenario. Not to say that the ceiling is the permanent limit, but it speaks to the idea of that negative, perhaps negative necessity to a degree.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Munchkins, to me at least, represent beings from the psychedelic world. This is why they only show you the way and give you advice where to begin your journey of enlightenment. They show Dorothy the Yellow Brick Road. These are beings that are mischievous, playful, and seemingly childlike with their dances and singing and their dress. I also correlate this to, of course, the gnome or elf-like beings from Terence McKenna is known to have interacted with.
Yeah, the machine elves. I've seen them too. Yep, they're there.
Yes, sir. Suddenly, mid-celebration, the Wicked Witch of the West appears in a cloud of red smoke. And the red smoke is representative of danger, representative of the root chakra, and also the symbol of fire. She also has the power of fire. I believe it's called pyrokinesis, which is one of the 4 elements. She also represents the left-hand side of the brain, which is also the masculine. Now, you will notice that the masculine is the triangle, which is the same symbol as fire. Glinda then proceeds to say how the Witch of the West is actually worse than the Witch of the East, speaking to how it's perhaps better to be right brain dominated than left brain dominated. This is because when you are left brain dominated, eventually you may become stuck in the R complex known as the lizard brain or reptilian brain, hence why the Witch of the West is green.
If I could say very quickly to Lewis's incredible point, this is why I've also said, although to be fair, not recently, it's of my opinion that one can have all the numbers, all the physics, all the science they want, but if you cannot intuitively implement your feeling and what you feel with respects to an artistic, philosophical mergence between the two, the numbers are going to mean nothing. You're going to be running in circles in a sort of nuts and bolts sense without any intuitive, energetic, organic, spiritual component.
Yeah, 100%. So notice how also how the part of the brain known as the reptilian complex also appears, to me at least, to look like a root. Hence we can see the parallels between this and the root chakra. Both deal with base desires, survival, security, basic needs like food, water, shelter, dominance, aggression. This being said, however, we should be aiming for brain balance and not to be dominated by either hemisphere. There are just as many disadvantages to being right brain than there is left brain. Balance and harmony should be our goal after all. Now, notice on a normal compass, there are 4 main directions: north, east, south, and west, respectively. North being in the front, east being to the right, south being behind us, and west being to the left. Now, if you look at this from a bird's eye view, we can see the perspective of the brain from a bird's eye view. We notice that the east represents the right hemisphere. It is on the right, and the Witch of the West represents the left brain because she is on the left. Now, the question then becomes, why is the Witch of the East dead? To me, this speaks to the Witch of the East being dead, the right hand of the brain being dead in Dorothy, because she's a teenager. She's just probably got out of school, and this is designed to take us fully into the left brain, logical, facts, maths, and to take us away from the creative and the intuitive. Now, Glenda being a caring witch, she comforts and protects Dorothy by putting her right hand upon her right shoulder. She also, with her left hand, protects Dorothy with her wand and stands in the way of her and the witch. We can see this. This is how Glenda is harmonious and balanced due to using both hemispheres. She is using the right on her right shoulder first as care, and then she is using the left as the courage, as the passion, as the divine masculine to protect and possibly injure the Wicked Witch of the West. Here we see the brain attached to the spine. This is one representation of how we are actually the magical ones. We're the wizards and the witches using magic and can create whatever we desire. Notice the Wicked Witch of the West doesn't actually have a wand, but she has a broomstick. The wand is also representative of enlightenment, the one being the spine, the star, the crown chakra, is at the top of the wand. We can liken this to obviously how the chakra system works. Now you notice I've got something in the way at the moment. So you'll notice how the brain is also representative of the star, and the handle, as I can think of it, is representative of the spinal column, which you must ascend. Another way of putting it, as we will shortly see Dave's picture that you put up a few weeks ago, I believe, is that we are the spaceship. And I'll leave that to you. Now, the Witch of the West tells Dorothy, after finding the ruby slippers on her feet, that she wants the slippers. Now, the ruby slippers to me represent the Philosopher's Stone and also the pineal gland, the third eye. This is why when she wants to leave eventually in the end, spoiler alert, when she wants to leave, all she has to do is she has to tap the heels of her shoes together while thinking about home. The connection between the feet creates a vibration and creates a vortex, and that's all she's needed with the intention to go home. To be honest, lads, I'm going to bullshit an idea again here.
Please.
She taps 3 times, and I believe this is because she needs to create the magical number of 33. A long shot, but something to note. Glenda also tells her to remain inside the shoes, as their magic must be powerful, and the witch of the West obviously wants them. This speaks to remaining inside her power and using it regardless of fear. She threatens Glinda, but after, Glinda just laughs at her, proclaiming that she has no power. This is due to the protection from Glinda, who points her wand at her, who's obviously the more powerful witch. The Wicked Witch of the West then states, just try and stay out of my way, to Dorothy, meaning that at some point you will inevitably have to deal with parts of ourselves that we're actually trying to get away from and trying to escape from. You remember that this is Dorothy's witch, this is Dorothy's demon, this is something that she's got to overcome.
I just want to say these connections that you've been and these correlations have been absolutely incredible. Half of them I never even thought of myself.
Holy shit!
It's an old film, to be fair.
I'm speechless, and we know how hard that is to do, dude.
I appreciate it, lads. Where was it?
Sorry, we were talking about
Yeah, sorry, I'll find it. It also speaks to how we must face our fears. You can't hide forever from them, as they will keep returning over and over to get you out of your slippers, to get you out of the center point. Glinda then complains about a powerful smell of sulfur as the Wicked Witch of the West goes away in smoke. Now, interestingly, the alchemical symbol for sulfur is red. It represents heat, evaporation, and is associated with the male aspects of the psyche. What does the Witch of the West, the left male aggressive dominated side of the brain do? She evaporates in a cloud of red smoke. Glinda tells Dorothy that once she leaves us, she'll sleep much safer, due to Glinda actually being aware of foresight and being aware of the incoming enlightenment once she leaves us eventually. Dorothy protests that she can't get home the way she came, meaning that she can't follow her old ways and must find a new way to get home. She then sends Dorothy to the Emerald City so she can speak to the great and powerful Wizard of Oz. She recommends that Dorothy always keep in her slippers, as she may become vulnerable to the witch and all its ways of trapping you in the left-hand brain of the hemisphere. If she leaves the slippers. She tells Dorothy that once she gets to the Emerald City, she'll be able to go home, and tells her the best place to start the journey is at the beginning, and that she should follow the yellow brick road. Now, the yellow brick road is representative of the correct path towards enlightenment, representing the spiritual journey. It's the journey of enlightenment. It's the gold color, representative of the light and the alchemical gold, Right alongside it, however, you will notice on the picture on the left is the red path. The red path, of course, represented just the root chakra, base existence, pleasure seeking, hedonism. The path is also red due to the unknown danger that the road contains and the danger of remaining unenlightened. Notice the shape of the road. Yet again, we see the spiral instead of vortex. The spiral in esoteric circles is one of unknown potential. It is curved because on journeys such as the one Dorothy's embarked upon, what lies in front of you is simply unknown. You can't see what's around the corner. It isn't the simple straight path that Auntie Em wanted her to take. Represents society, of course. As
What's
Dorothy
awesome,
waves...
if you don't mind,
Right,
real quick, hop one back. What's awesome about this too is that whenever you see these two paths, and this is, I'm sure you're going to point this out, so I apologize if I'm jumping ahead, but they go parallel to one another, and there's a fine line between the two, right? So that you can dance between one or the other along your forward trajectory in life. Like they go parallel. You can hop from your lowest chakra to your highest in a moment's notice, right? You'd be the high vibiness person, listen to Making My Way Downtown on the radio, windows down, and someone cuts you off, and you go straight from that to root chakra. So it's interesting this parallel, how yes, they're curved, but they're also side by side, and that there's obviously no barrier separating them. You can dance between the two at any moment you want along your journey. Just wanted to point that out. It's beautiful.
Yeah, awesome. You can literally as well have one feet in the other. You can have both feet in both fucking
roads.
It's a
great point. Great point. Yeah, you can step on your right foot, then left foot, right foot, left foot.
Yeah. And then you're going to reach the point where they actually go away, and then you're fucked because you got to choose on there.
Right. And okay, I'm sure we'll get there, but please, yes, go ahead.
So as Dorothy actually waves goodbye to the Munchkins, this is an awful picture. I apologize. I can't get a better one. We see that the yellow brick road isn't a straight or even a flat path. She must go over hills, through ups and downs as she travels through the one path. So she doesn't know what each path contains and what each level of each path will be. As she travels further down, we can see her at a crossroads, right? This obviously means that she doesn't know which way to go. She doesn't know what to do. What do we say? I'm at a crossroads. I don't know what to do. Meaning there are multiple options and she doesn't know which option to choose. The reason that she comes to a crossroads is due to the fact that there isn't just one road to attain spiritual enlightenment. There are many paths to find whatever it is you seek. We see Toto, the intuition, barking at the scarecrow, which is an indicator for Dorothy to pay attention. It is akin to the sudden, loud ringing of the ears we sometimes get when our spiritual teachers, higher selves, spirit guides, or whomever wants us to pay attention to something. Somehow, unbeknownst to the viewer, Dorothy can understand Toto and says that scarecrows can't talk. This, for me, is again indicative of the film being purely metaphorical as opposed to literal, because obviously people can't understand dogs, and yet she understood. So the intuition is talking to her and she knows exactly what's it saying despite not being a dog. The intuition doesn't use intelligence in the way that we understand it. It feels, and in that way it knows. Toto doesn't hesitate and immediately lets Dorothy know. This also shows how Dorothy is still without a brain, as she doesn't think that scarecrows can talk, despite being sucked up by a tornado into a magical world of dancing dwarves and witches. So when she speaks to the scarecrow, she can see we can see the scarecrow stuffing himself back with straw. Now this is what the brain does. It forgets and it continues and goes on to learn other things. Think of the straw as the synapses of the brain. It is constantly losing its straw, and happens when that happens, it loses its ability to function properly. This is representative of the scarecrow. Before he loses straw, he actually advises Dorothy to bend the nail in the back of the block that he's standing upon, which shows he's using his brain. And then after he loses the straw and falls, He trips over obviously hard to miss broken fence, sorry. Now, after the Scarecrow sings a song about how much he'd love a brain, Dorothy completes the first riddle, which is getting the Scarecrow off the pole. She then accepts the Scarecrow into her life and along the journey to the Emerald City. The reason that he is so high on the pole speaks to how high we hold the brain or thought as the highest and therefore the greatest quality of consciousness. She also says, I think I'll miss you most of all at the end of the film. She must remove him from his pedestal and accept him into her life before she can move along the Emerald City.
There's a beautiful thing too. I also wanted to point out the hierarchical nature of how politicians do this. They stand above you. Preachers, they stand above you. But also we don't equate that with intelligence. We equate it with authority, which is very different, right? And so this delineation, absolutely brilliant point you made there, Lewis. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. And then I love, I'll miss you most of all. My ability to not use you improperly is what I'll miss the most because that's fun, right? It's just a brilliant, brilliant perspective, dude.
As they reach the part of the forest that contains the trees with the apples on, they argue with the trees about she wants to pick some apples from the tree. It shows that she isn't ready. She isn't worthy to pick from the tree of knowledge. She hasn't done the work and therefore isn't worthy of the forbidden fruit. Obviously, the forbidden fruit can be likened to understanding the duality that is within the world. And, there are loads of connotations there.
Forbidden fruit being akin to basically sacred knowledge, if you will.
Yeah. Tree of wisdom and knowledge.
Yeah, 100%. Now, after being shouted at for attempting to pick the apples, we see again the Scarecrow using his brain, using intellect, using the mind to attain some apples, as opposed that he doesn't have any. They then shortly after stumble upon the Tin Man, the heart, and they must first lube him up in order to open him up and make him talk. This is Dorothy's second trial. She failed with Auntie M getting her to open up when Miss Gulch tries to take Toto. However, this time she succeeds. She is successful due to the help from the Scarecrow. The brain and the soul, or the mind and the soul, work together to unfreeze the heart. The Tin Man then begins to talk about how good it finally feels to open up, indicative of how he's been stiff for so long. He then proceeds to discuss how he became frozen by cutting a tree down. Now, I believe this is due to his heart being frozen. He decided to, desecrate nature, and karma made the skies rain down, causing him to freeze until he opened up to someone. This is obviously parallel to the story of the Beauty and the Beast, how he's got to find someone to love him, and then he can turn from a beast to a man. Obviously, the beastly nature is representative of the lower root nature within ourselves, and the man is representative of the higher nature. He then begins to describe, as the Scarecrow once did, the functions of what it actually is to express the thing that they desire. The Scarecrow sang about what he'd do if he had a brain. Pardon me. And the Tin Man is singing how he would behave if he had a heart. This indicates to me that they clearly are what they desire to be. But since they were both physically stuck and stationary, it indicates how we need to be using courage and actually acting out and using these components in order to then feel them. We need to express them, utilize them. Else, if we do not, then we might as well be without the heart and the brain. Furthermore, he talks about if he had a heart, he talked to the sparrows, meaning getting back to nature. After he opens his heart, using it, expressing it, and being open, him singing. Nature then reaches back to him in the form of an accompaniment, singing with him. He sings about a voice above speaking low, meaning God getting in touch with man, or nature getting in touch with man as God is nature, or at the very least, the product of God. Now, when he stops talking, he immediately becomes stiff again. He requires more oiling up to get him to move, as he hasn't been open for so long. On his own, the Tin Man struggles with which direction to go. As you can see on the left and the right hand side, he bends this way, he bends that way. It is only with the combination of the physical effort of the soul and the brain that enables him to then walk in the right direction. He needed guidance from the two. He needed to be touched in a way that enabled him to move alongside the brain and the soul. He actually falls for them, giving his everything to them. This is because when you were doing something right in your heart was to give everything towards that common goal, and this is why he literally falls his whole body towards them. He's given his all to them. The Wicked Witch of the West then appears, threatening the Scarecrow and the Tin Man. After being threatened by the witch, this only reinforces their position that they had before towards serving Dorothy's will. Your mind and your heart will know when a journey is worth fighting for. This is why they want to go on the journey along with the soul, no matter what the consequences. They don't care what happens because they found their true purpose. They're not worried. They realize that doing anything else is immaterial and irrelevant. It is not fulfilling their true purpose, which is helping the soul, Dorothy, to reach enlightenment, or Dorothy reaching the Emerald City. Dorothy states she feels that she's known them all her life, representing how we all have these elements within us, and it is only that when we reach a truly great purpose, that we've been able to connect properly with them, utilize them together towards one common goal. The Scarecrow remarks how they couldn't have known each other because she wasn't around when he was being stuffed with straw. This speaks to how the soul isn't residing within the body while the synapses are being developed in the brain before birth. The Tin Man then remarks how he has stood rusting, indicating how you can't really care about something unless there is something worthy enough to aspire it into action. After skipping along the yellow brick road with the Scarecrow and the Tin Man, Dorothy remarks how the forest is scaring her due to the dark nature of the forest. The Scarecrow, the brain, tells Dorothy that it's going to get darker before it gets lighter. This speaks to how the journey of ascension starts from being in the dark about these things, being unaware. You must travel from Plato's cave to the light in the outside world. You must enjoy not only dark forces, but you yourself must be in darkness. I.e., you must be ignorant of something before you can know it. You can only get to the light from being in the dark. And so it is, you can only become enlightened by first being unenlightened. So the lion then descends upon them shortly after, growling and barking. Now the lion represents courage, and he confronts all three characters. Yet again, we see the person that is claiming to be without a thing using that very thing to get them out of the predicament they were in before they met Dorothy. Beforehand, before the straw man agrees to follow Dorothy, he uses his brain to tell her to bend the nail. When they come across the Tin Man, he tells her all the things that he feels that he wants to do. This is the expression of the heart, which then allows him to move. The lion then uses his courage to confront 3 random strangers, and one of them is even holding an axe. He then becomes even more courageous by offering to fight them with a disadvantage in their favor. An example being, he says, I'll fight you at the same time. I'll fight you with one paw behind my back. I'll fight you with my eyes closed. Dorothy, when confronted with a lion, Dorothy, when confronted with something she professed to be scared about, defends Toto from the lion. She boops him on the head. And that is showing that she passes trial number 3 by using the exact same thing that she is required to have along her journey to reach the Emerald City. It took her brains to free the Scarecrow. It took compassion to free the Tin Man, and it took courage to confront the lion. He then decides to join her in the journey for the Emerald City. She now has a brain, she has heart, she has courage. When I say brain, I also mean mind. I've just wrote brain, so think mind as well. Or in other words, she now has the fundamental building blocks necessary towards spiritual enlightenment: thought, emotion, and will.
In balanced, empowered harmony, like together.
Yeah, that's why they all link arms.
Yes.
They're pretty much.
It's so cool.
They're pretty much all the same height. Yeah. Pretty much.
Moving in the same direction. No one's further ahead on the path than another. You're not shooting with your mind first. You're not overthinking. You're not too far with your heart, meaning you're leaving any of the other skills behind. You're all in alignment, connected. What's interesting too is that path is just wide enough for all four of them to fit on at the same time.
Dude, I was just about to say that.
Damn it!
I was just about to say they fill up the fingers.
Well, great job. That's awesome.
Wicked, man. We then see the Wicked Witch of the West looking at the newly formed team skipping happily along the forest. As she moves away from the camera, from the crystal ball, we can see the common themes of red associated with a character. Pardon me. We see the red sand in the timer. We see the red powder that she crushes up in the mortar and pestle. Pestle. We can also see the crystal ball that glows red as she approaches it. As she leaves it, it goes green. As she approaches it, it goes red. She then creates poppies to trap them and put them to sleep in hopes that she can get her hands on the ruby slippers.
Dude, if I may, poppies to put them to sleep is a metaphor for distraction as far as like drug use or anything holding you back and keeping you anchored. You know what I mean?
I'm getting to that, brother. Trust me.
Fuck.
Awesome analysis, though.
I love the picture on the right, by the way. I fully agree with that.
Yeah. So after reaching the end of the forest, Dorothy remarks how beautiful the Emerald City is and how excited they are to reach the city. This speaks to how we can view the path, or at least different parts of it, as coming to an end. At one stage in our life, we can believe that we are actually crossing the finish line, that this will be the end of that journey, and that we've discovered the great secrets that are to be known. It speaks to the naivety of people who are at the beginning of their journey, with little or no history of how enlightenment actually works. Remember the Yellow Brick Road? It wasn't a simple straight path. It was a spiral, swirling around, never knowing what was coming next. So naturally, when amateurs or newbies, people with little previous experience or history come upon a part in their journey that seems and appears to be straightforward, it will be easy to think that that's the end and that's everything done. That you're in the last level of the game and that you're about to achieve exactly what you set out to achieve. That there are no more levels to the spiral staircase and no more levels to the game. You are, Brandon. As we soon find out when Dorothy and the lion are put to sleep due to the poison poppies, there will be pitfalls and things we can't see and don't expect. There may even be hidden within the beauty of something like a poppy. It could be a beautiful woman, a great seeming job, fancy house. This list isn't exhaustive by any stretch of the imagination. Potential pitfalls in our journey towards enlightenment and balance. It could even be drugs. This is why we see the poppies, opium, heroin, that seem attractive, that seem fun and something to take the edge off. But what drugs actually are a suppressor. They're not an eliminator. Dorothy, as she sleeps, may even be dreaming that she actually is in the Emerald City. This is why the lion, Courage, is also asleep. The brain and the heart, as you'll see if you watch the film, are actually telling you to stop. They know that it isn't right for you, but you continue to do it anyway because it means that you don't have to be courageous. This is why the lion is asleep. It's natural to want to rest, to take a break when you're walking this type of path that has appeared to be so harsh and to be so deadly. But you must be vigilant of the environment, of the type of environment that you choose to reside in. Are you resting with drugs? Or are you resting with meditation? Are you resting with social media consumption? Or are you resting with family time and friends and love? When you allow yourself to sleep, make sure that you're recharging with the right batteries that are actually best for you. Best isn't always what's comfortable. Your heart and your head can see you doing it to yourself, but you're powerless, as you can only continue to move along the path of enlightenment if you bring courage along with you. Again, the line is at sleep. Sometimes you can be coerced to fall back to sleep. Not a voluntary recharge, but a complete break from the path. Maybe perhaps even traveling along that red path. Hence, the poppies are reddish pink. The Witch of the West, the left side of the brain, can make things appear as they are not. You can get lost in the rational, the analyzing, the math, the logic. You can get lost in nihilism, escapism, hedonism. You might be tricked into believing that this is actually the right way to go. And you might even be convinced that it's that so much that you fall back to sleep and you ignore the journey that you was once on. When what you often need to help you break out of the pure left brain control is the help of the divine feminine, which is where Glenda wakes both the lion and Dorothy up. The snow represents cold, hard truth, facts. It's the harsh reality of the world. It's the slap in the face that you sometimes need. It's the wake-up call that we often need. It's uncomfortable and it makes us move. The divine feminine is in touch with the intuition and with the heart, which is all you need to set you back along the path towards the Emerald City. Logic can only get you so far, and as soon as you've been sleeping for long enough, your desire for action, courage, and the fire in your soul will be awakened. After waking up, Dorothy notices the Tin Man is also frozen up. This speaks to how if we don't use our hearts for a while, we don't use care for a while, we can become returned to our closed-heartedness and freeze up again. We can become cold-hearted. When they all link arms together and carry along the journey, again, it can seem like everything is bright and beautiful. Love and light is all there is, and you're out of the woods, so to speak. The little voice in our heads can tell us that everything's all right now. That we've beaten the boss, and that was our boss, and that we're close to completion once again. Again, it's a trap. Simultaneously, once they approach the gates of the Emerald City, the Wicked Witch is actually on the way to intervene, which they don't know about. Everything isn't always as it seems. When they entered the Emerald City, they reach a spa-like room in which they all get pampered, pertaining to how balance can actually help enhance and clean out the parts of you that we need to evolve. Balance in the heart, balance in the brain, balance in the will, balance of the soul, and of the spirit results in ecstasy. Now, balance should be the very thing that we are attempting to achieve, but it doesn't stop there, because certain parts can sometimes call for more attention, and this is where we see the Wicked Witch of the West tells Dorothy to surrender, as we can see on the left. Give me 1 second, guys. I lost it around. Here we go. Indicating that the logical part of us will often trying to be controlling us. The logical side of us only likes facts, statistics, the straight and narrow, and anything that's beyond the straight and narrow, as the chaos, the spiral road, actually angers it and terrifies it. The part of you that will attempt to make you submit in order to return to it and give you an easier life. But the question then becomes, what do you want? An easier life or a better life? The line then begins singing about the life he would have if he was king of the forest. The rest start to coronate him, to put a crown on his head. This, to me, is showing the importance and how high courage should actually be regarded. For without courage, they wouldn't have reached the Emerald City. Dorothy then asks if the lion asks the lion if he became king, if he'd truly be afraid. He replies with not anything, and he gives numerous examples of what he wouldn't be afraid of. The significance of this is one of the key pivotal moments of the film for me. Once you understand how important courage actually is, this is why you'll notice he gets actually the longest song. The time is the longest out of all of them. Courage on the right path, the spiritual ascension, doesn't need to be afraid. When joined with the mind, the heart, the spirit, and the soul, courage acts as the body moving things into place regardless of fear. When in conjunction with all of the above, there is nothing but courage that is needed to achieve the highest aim. What is the only thing that will get you to where you desire to go most of all? Courage. Courage is the vehicle which allows us to drive forward against the thing that stands against us. It is the sword, it is the spear, the hammer that we use to charge into war and conquer our enemies. When they walk into the room to meet the Wizard of Oz, he calls Tin Man to him whilst emanating red smoke and fire around his projection. Again, the fire and the color red are associated with danger. To be aware of what he's saying, the lies and the path he's about to set them on. When he lies and berates them and insults them, the fire and the red and the smoke actually become more intense. Obviously, as you watch the film, you'll notice this. And this is indicative of the lies he tells. Like, what do we say? Liar, liar, pants on fire. As he offers them a quest to attain what they seek, the smoke then turns green, representative now of growth and new beginnings. As they approach the witch's house, we see this sign on the right-hand side, with the request of the wizard to gather and return the broom. We see the flying monkeys that are sent by the Wicked Witch of the West to attack them. Now, to me, the flying monkeys represent fort demons. They are fear, they are doubt, they are disbelief. They want to bring you back to the left way of thinking and to remove your slippers. Now, the Witch of the West actually... Oh, sorry, were you going to say something then, Dave?
Oh, I was going to say a couple things. First off, the name spelled Dorothy a few slides back, you don't have to go to it, but the Y, the letter Y out of all the other letters was uniquely sort of drawn out there, which could be nothing, but I found it interesting that it spoke to the concept of the Ankh and all the symbols that have been seen before. But even in this particular slide, we look here in the left image, we see that the witch here seems to be holding what it could be a few different things, but we see the table as well as in the side of the table is in that of the ebb and flow of the caduceus, in addition to what seems to be sort of what I liken to a gyroscope, at least. But that's, we can interpret that as many different things as well. Rings over rings, and that overlapping in that regard.
Yeah, like an orrery or an astronomical device, as well as like the angels, the wheel within a wheel, Ezekiel's wheel kind of a thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you look on the desk as well, I'll add to this, Dave, that little lamp looking thing on the far left, the gold base with the red top.
Yeah.
That's in another slide that you're using as well. So do you want me to not say anything about that, Lewis?
Huh?
It looks like the Philosopher's Stone in the next slide.
Yeah.
Do
you see it?
A small piece.
Yeah.
Notice it's a small piece, yeah.
Yeah.
Dave, where was Dorothy spelled? Which slide?
The slide previous.
Slide previous.
The one more before that. One before that.
That one.
There we go.
This one.
Yep.
Ah, okay.
And it is interesting how it jumps out. It's seemingly not in the same font. So I'm glad that you pointed this out as well. But it also is the last letter she uses, of course, is the last thing she needs to spell. So it's the darkest, right? But also is the one focused on. But I think that's brilliant. Yeah.
Right. One other thing I did want to ask is, Lewis, you're doing an absolutely incredible job. I wanted to ask if it'd be possible to shortly at your whatever slide you'd like to stop at to wrap this up. And if there's more, we do a part 2 if that works. The only reason I ask is because this is so filled with depth of meaning and all of that. I'd love for the audience to basically interpret it, absorb it, and then we can move forward if that's okay with you.
Yeah, of course. I've got 13, so
Dude, perfect.
It'll be shorter, but we can have a chat after that if you want.
I think, and I also think that I'm going to be honest with you. I think that the audience would also love like a part 2, and perhaps even, not to put you on the spot, but perhaps we can do some deciphering of things and make this a series of sorts potentially, if you'd like. But this has been so incredible. But please, if there's anything you wanted to sort of wrap up on, and only because we're hitting the hour and a half mark, and I want to give everyone time to absorb the information, and the depth that you go is so deep. I just want to ensure that they can get it all.
No, nothing I wanted to add, man.
Perfect. Well, Brandon, you want to jump in?
I was going to say, dude, I can't wait, because I'm going to part 2 for damn sure, because I a lot to integrate, a lot of questions, and I'm going to go back and watch this thing like 5 times. I'm going to show this to my wife. She's going to lose her shit on this. This is amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely amazing, dude.
This is definitely going to be one of those. That's definitely going to be one of those for sure. Hold on one second here. Just want to put it back to the panel before we wrap it up. So with that said, I have nothing to say, not because of a lack of, my lack of what I want to say has been supplemented with what you're already saying. Let me just put it that way. So I wasn't expecting this whatsoever. This has been absolutely incredible. I don't know if, Brandon, you wanted to jump in, and then we'll call it.
I knew it was going to be dope, but man, I've read some of the things that you've written, so I'm like, wow, I know you're deep, but dude, this is outstanding, man. So same, Dave and I are just so delightfully surprised to see, where we've seen you grow from to now you're sitting here presenting, and now your first presentation is fucking banger, dude. I mean, it's incredible, dude. And so just like what you're explaining here, I mean, your spiritual path, and you have such a unique story, and I won't tell your story, but you have such a unique, everyone does, but to get you here and to see you doing what you're doing now, and just to see that this is the beginning of something even more beautiful, it's just beautiful to watch you blossom and open up, brother. And we are here of service in any way. And I know the audience shares this as well. So I can't wait for part 2, dude. Outstanding.
Awesome. Outstanding. Please, everyone, also check out davez.substack.com, because Lewis has a lot of articles on there that we've co-written, but Lewis's part has been completely written by him, and has been really made me have to redo the metaphorical icing on my cake as well. So I want to thank the both of you so very much. And to everyone else, we will catch all of you next time. And Lewis, thank you. This has been one of the most unique presentations I've seen in months at this point. So
outstanding.
Thank you so much, brother.
I appreciate you both, man.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.